Hey, Commander. Just like old times, huh?
I can't believe it's you, Joker.
Look who's talking. I saw you get spaced.
Got lucky, with a lot of strings attached. How'd you get here?
It all fell apart without you, Commander. Everything you stirred up, the Council just wanted it gone. The team was broken up, record sealed, and I was grounded. The Alliance took away the one thing that mattered to me. Hell yeah, I joined Cerberus.
You really trust the elusive man?
Well, I don't trust anyone who makes more than I do. But they aren't all bad. Saved your life, let me fly, and there's this. They only told me last night. Good to be home, huh, Commander?
I guess we'll have to give her a name.
What's up, shipbuilders? I never thought this day would come, yet here we are, building the Normandy. That's because this ship is such a difficult shape to get right considering the limits of the Starfield shipbuilder. Now, I researched a lot of other builds across the internet, and most people build the main fuselage only one part width wide, and that is what I initially did when I set out to build this. But that has its problems. First of all, the maximum length allowed by the shipbuilder simply isn't enough, so the size ratio of the main fuselage to the engine nacelles isn't great enough when you build Normandy this way. Which then brings me to the other issue I have with a one wide body. The wings and the engines are too far from the body. This makes the overall shape more of an equilateral triangle instead of an isosceles triangle, and that simply isn't the Normandy. Plus, an added bonus, I opted to use the HOPETech thrusters on the front of the engines, which I think mimics the forward thrusters on the Normandy, and you can even see them fire when you engage your thrusters in space. So, in spite of my better judgment, I went with this too wide body, and I know we don't have a too wide cockpit. So I did improvise just a little bit, but I do think the overall shape is as close as I can get to the true Normandy for a plain vanilla build in Starfield. And the other reason I think that, and one of the surprising reasons this is my new favorite ship to fly, is the HAB layout. The too wide main body allows us to use those cool 2x2 HABs that I rarely get to use on my ship builds because they're so difficult to fit in a streamlined shape. So let's take a look at the inside of the ship so you can see what I mean. Now, if you haven't already noticed, the cockpit is just a little off-center. That's because we don't have a 2x2 cockpit. But when you do enter from the landing bay, you'll come right up into a 1x1 and the cockpit is right in front of you. So that is a nice little perk of this layout, is you don't have to navigate all the way through the ship just to get to the cockpit. And you do have a decent view from the cockpit. So you could fly this from the cockpit view, though you will see the main fuselage does obstruct the top part of your view just a little bit. Now, coming up the ladder, we go right into one of my favorite 2x2s. This is the TAIYO 2x2 battle station. I just like the open layout of this. Really looks like a control center. You do have a navigation console that is usable. Now your docker is right there. So again, either from the landing bay or the docker, you come right up into usable space. And it's just nice to see all your crew working in here. No idea what they're doing, but theoretically they're working. And you got explosives too, so it's safe. Sarah is sulking in the corner because she's not very nice. And I don't know... Yeah, maybe try reading the sign. Now this is a 2x2 living quarters for Nova Galactic. And I like this living quarters just for what it has. You notice the workout area, it has a little living space with a TV. We do need a mod that makes the TV work, but it does have a couple beds, and so it just seems like a decent overall open living space for crew quarters, really. And like I said, I just like how open it is. Even has a water cooler, so you can chat. Off of that, we've got a 1x1 workshop. We always need a workshop. I almost went with the science hab for this, but it doesn't have as many actual workshop benches. And in this little area at the end, I figured, you know, you could put some storage crates or something like that if you go into decorate mode. So a lot of usable space here. And then a captain's quarters off the other side with, again, another navigation console. Both this and the workshop are HOPE-Tech HABs. I need to kick you out of my bed, punk. But we even do have a toilet. And an espresso machine. So everything the adventuring space captain needs. But a pretty simple hab layout. Again, I can just run straight back to the end, drop down, and I'm at the cockpit. So pretty easy layout, but it does allow for the use of those 2x2 habs in a streamlined configuration, which a lot of ships just don't really allow unless you want to make a giant destroyer-based ship, which I don't want to do all the time. Now, I have to admit, I did actually glitch one part in this build. It's the first time I've done this in any of my build videos, so if you are what they would call a vanilla purist, hear me out. I did keep the rest of this build completely vanilla, and the piece that I did glitch has no impact whatsoever on the interior of the HABs. It's extremely easy to accomplish, and you don't have to follow that part of the build, and you'll still get a ship that is extremely close to this one. But if you do want to follow along exactly, you'll need to enable the flip merge capability in your game settings. And I'll call out exactly where this piece is when we get there if you haven't noticed it already. Now, a few other items before we begin. You'll need to do a bit of part shopping before completing this build. So specifically, you'll need to get 2 NG-20 landing gear from New Homestead on Titan, as well as the 2x2 Nova Galactic living quarters hab. You'll then need to get 2 Pinpoint 4G landing gear from TAIYO Astroneering and Neon, as well as the 2x2 TAIYO Battle Station Top Type B hab. Then you'll need to go to STROUD-EKLUND STARYARD in the NARION system to get 6 SA-4330 engines, as well as, you might as well pick up your weapons there, the PBO-175 auto Helion beams, 4 of those, and 3 of the Exterminator 95 MEV auto Helion beams. The rest of this ship you can build with parts from your outpost landing pad. Alright, now let's look at the major ship systems. The first major component we should look at is the reactor. Now for this build, I chose the 104DS Mag Inertial Reactor, which is a bit different from my typical choices of either the Pinch 8A for its high hull value, or the Pinch 8Z for its 40 power points. But for this build, I needed something with a smaller profile, and the 104DS provides that, while also providing 39 power points, which is near the maximum of 40, and at a much lower mass compared to its Class C counterparts. Now it is a Class B reactor, so we are limited to only Class A and Class B parts, but as we'll see, we can still outfit this ship with some of the best parts and weapons in the entire game. For the GRAV drive, we simply want to choose the GRAV drive that provides our ship's mass with at least 28 light years of jump range, because that will allow us to travel anywhere in the settled systems. And so for the mass of this build, the R4000 Alpha GRAV drive does that for this ship configuration. Now for the shield, I went with the Vanguard Bulwark shield. My main consideration here was aesthetics, as I didn't have many places to put a shield that didn't just stick out like a sore thumb. This one hides fairly nicely, but also because it is top 3 across all shields in the game in terms of overall shield health, and has a low mass, which helps keep our mobility and acceleration up. so we're still getting a great shield. Now for the engines, we're using those 6 Slayton SA4330 engines. This engine has 6 different flip variations, so it looks good in any orientation that we need it to. And what I would call the middle variants can be slotted into a 1x1 HAB space and allow for additional ship parts to fit behind the engine. This might break your idea of true roleplay, but I wanted that extra engine performance. Plus, these SA4330 engines are some of the best performing in the entire game in terms of engine performance over and above their own mass, so we can get a little bit of extra cargo on this ship too, and still have top engine performance. Alright, finally our weapons. This, like everything else, is a personal preference. I went with an all-particle beam loadout to simply obliterate any and all enemy ships. I'm using 6 of the Vanguard Obliterator autoprojectors. These weapons are one of the best in the entire game in terms of burst and sustain damage, and that's because they benefit from both your energy weapon system skill and your particle beam weapon system skill. For the other 2 weapon slots, I chose the PBO 175 auto Helion beams and the Exterminator 95 MEV auto Helion beams. Both have some of the best burst damage output to both shields and hull, and with this loadout, you'll be melting every enemy ship that challenges you. Alright, now let's dive into the piece-by-piece build. I'm going to build another version of the ship right next to this one so we can use it as a guide as we go. Now to start, as always, we're going to start with our landing bay. We're going to grab this 120 LD landing bay from Deimos, and it's going to face forward. Move that down to about ground level. And then behind that, we're going to have a structural piece. It's going to be the Deimos belly, and we're going to flip that backwards and attach that. Now, as we previously saw, when you come in from the landing bay, you're going to come in right to a 1x1. Pick whatever 1x1 you want here. I'm just going to pick the Deimos because it's convenient. And we're going to put another 1x1 right next to it. That's going to lead down to our docker. So let's grab our docker. We're going to use this 110 DP docker and flip it upside down, or to the bottom version. And behind that, we're going to copy this Deimos belly. We're going to copy this again, flip it, and put it in front. So that attempts to get a symmetrical look, even though technically we don't have like a 2x2 landing bay or a 2x2 cockpit. And speaking of the cockpit, we're going to grab this Viking CP220 cockpit. We'll put that right off of the HAB from the landing bay. Then on the other side, we're going to put our reactor. So we'll have the 104DS Mag Inertial Reactor. There it is. We'll go ahead and copy the Deimos belly and put that in front there of the reactor. Again, not perfectly symmetrical, but to me it does a decent enough job. Now just to check my pieces here. Alright. So let's grab our GRAV drive. Again, we want the R4000 Alpha GRAV drive. That behind that HAB that's behind the reactor. And then let's grab our fuel tank, the 500T Helium-3 tank. Not a ton of fuel on this ship, so if you need more, you can always add Sarah Morgan to your crew, increase your astrodynamic skill. That'll help. Now on either side of those parts, we're going to grab this Deimos bumper, change the variation twice so that it's kind of slopes the opposite direction. And then we're going to grab this Deimos wing A and attach that to the reactor. And then just copy each of those, flip them, and put them on the other side. Now from here, for our... let's go ahead and, before we scroll all the way down, let's grab this HopeTech nose B and flip that backwards. That'll go on the back of the GRAV drive and the fuel tank, just to cap those off. And then for our wings, we'll start with this STROUD engine bracer. put that on either side of the HABS. And then we're going to want to grab, it's this Stroud. I'm going to delete these and just pick this apart and move it over here so we can see exactly the pieces. So this Stroud Cap A, and underneath that, I believe, is our landing gear. Yeah, the NG-20 landing gear. And then the 20T hauler cargo. So, just so you can follow along, let's go ahead and grab that Stroud Cap A. I always mix this up. It's not the nose cap, it's just Stroud Cap without the word nose. Let's grab that. That'll attach to that Stroud engine bracer. And then we want this Stroud cowling piece behind that. And then behind that is going to go our first SA-4330 engine. And we'll just use the first variant of that. Now let's grab our landing gear. We want the NG-20 and let's change it to the wide variant. It's going to go right underneath the Stroud Cap A. And in front of that is going to go our cargo piece. We want the 20T hauler. It's a little bit slimmer, it's sloped on both sides. And then in front of that is going to go our HOPTech thruster. So that's a structural piece. Again, these thrusters don't have any actual impact on gameplay. It's just for looks. There it is. Now on the back of that kind of bottom layer, we're going to copy this SA-4330 engine. We're going to flip it a few times to get this middle variant with a connector point facing outward, because that's what we're going to connect the rest of the wing to. And then we're going to copy this Deimos belly. And you see how that attaches right behind that SA-4330 engine. So still vanilla here. We're not using any glitches to get that to fit. I use this on a lot of my builds to get extra engine thrust and to hide it away in different parts of the ship. Now on the side of that engine, we're going to put this Pinpoint 4G landing gear. Remember, you have to go to TAIYO, ASTRONEERING, and NARION for that. Copy the thruster and copy the engine. And that's it for this side. I misspoke. It's almost it for this side. We need a weapon mount, which is in our structural category, all the way at the top. So flip that, and that will attach to that Stroud cowling piece. And then we're going to want to scroll all the way to the bottom and grab a TAIYO side cap and change the variant to a Type B. And you see how that has a little weapon mount on the side. I'm going to put that right under the Stroud engine bracer. And that'll let us hide an additional weapon. Now I'm just going to delete this, get it out of our way. And we can do the other side. So the other side, just copy and flip as needed. Flip that a few times. We'll have to flip this Stroud cowling a few times. Have to flip the engine a few times. Get that to attach. We can grab our 20T hauler, copy that, move it over. Copy the HOPTech thruster, move it over. Copy the NG-20 landing gear. Now for our engine, we're going to want just this middle variant, but again, we want the variant with the connector point facing outwards. And then the Deimos belly. Copy that. Now we can copy our Pinpoint 4G landing gear and the other thruster, and just one more engine. Did not need to flip it. There we go. Alright. That's it for the wings. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And delete this. I just noticed we do need to add our shield. So we do have our shield sitting on top of the Pinpoint 4G landing gear. So let's grab our Vanguard Bulwark shield. This is pretty low profile, especially when you paint everything black, you don't really notice it. Alright, now we really just have the main body or fuselage of the ship. So at this point, we can apply a coat of paint just because we have some kind of a separate part of the ship, so we might as well just apply paint. It'll be more efficient this way. So I'm painting this mostly black. You can see how dark that brightness is. I don't want to go all black because that just looks a little too metallic in my opinion, but again, personal preference. For the white, we're going completely white, full brightness. I'm going to go ahead and select this bottom layer here and paint these all white. And then a few pieces here, kind of the wings or these STROUD engine bracers, paint those white. And then the primary color on these STROUD cap A's, we'll paint white. Again, however you want to do the paint on this ship, up to you. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these, just so we don't hit our part limit as we're building. And to focus on what we have left. So notice I got those 2x2 HABs there. Again, for 2x2 HABs, you have to go to the specific ship vendor that you want. You cannot get these anywhere else. So for me, I wanted this TAIYO battle station and the top version, but you'll notice I have the B variant, because the B variant has connector points on the sides. The A variant does not. So we'll put that right on top of our 1x1 HABs, because again you'll enter into the 1x1 and then just have one ladder up into this 2x2 battle station. And then I like this Nova Galactic 2x2 living quarters. Again, HAB choice is completely yours. I do like the TAIYO top HABs for the back part of the ship because they are a little curved and you do see that just a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. We're mostly covering these HABs up anyway with other pieces. And for the front 2x1s, I did use the Hope Tech HABs, the workshop, and the captain's quarters. But again, personal preference, up to you. Now I noticed we did forget a couple pieces on our wings, so these TAIYO side caps, go ahead and copy those, and the Horizon weapon mount, copy those and flip to the other side. And what got me thinking of that is we're going to put those TAIYO side caps all down the side here, you can see. Which not only gives a nice rounded shape, but makes that part, that bottom layer of the main body just a little bit wider, which is nice, I think. So you notice I'm using just the regular variant of these, not the Type B. But that's up to you. And I did just go with a black stripe down the side, which is the other reason I like these for this build, is it does allow to have that black stripe down the side. So we'll end up with 4 of these on each side. And then let's copy this STROUD cap A, that's going to go in front. And I just have the tertiary colorway as the black on this one. The other two, first, the primary and secondary are white. Copy those, put them up top. I'm going to go ahead and grab this blue color. So if I just change something slightly and move it back and hit B, now that color is copied in my palette. So you'll see, there it is. Let's copy and flip the variant to be backward facing, same thing on the other side. And then we want this STROUD cowling piece, we want 2 of those in the middle. You could go with another HAB up top here. I found that the other HABs, even the TAIYO top HABs, they are rounded, but they're not quite as sloped as these TAIYO cowling pieces. So that's why I went with these, but if you wanted more HAB space, you could put another HAB up here, another 2x2, or 2 2x1s, or 4 1x1s, which I don't know why you'd do that, but it's your ship. And we do need a couple of these Nova cowlings on to connect to that TAIYO 2x2. So we'll put this one in front, and then we'll copy it and we'll change the variant twice. So now it's backward facing. And then just copy each of these and flip them, connect them to the other side. Alright, now we are nearly there. Now it's time for that piece I told you I glitched. So you'll see the tail pieces are glitched into the Nova cowlings. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. It's actually really easy. So get the Deimos spine F, and we're going to change the color to white. And we're going to attach that to the GRAV drive, copy it, and stack it. And do the same thing on the other side. Have 2 of those. And then we're going to top it off with the Deimos spine A, just to get a cleaner sloped look on the top. Now you could leave the ship just like this, plain vanilla, and be done. I didn't quite like the look of that. I really wanted that slope to extend down just to the very tail end of the ship, but there wasn't a good way to do that and to get these spine pieces to connect, so that's where the glitch comes in. So to glitch this, we're going to start with it flipped backwards and make sure it's just standing on its own. You're not selecting it. So standing on its own, now grab it. You'll see how it snaps into place, but it's red. Flip it again, and press B to cancel. And it sticks. It's that easy. So just to prove it to you, I'm going to delete all these other pieces. And you'll see when I do that, I just have warnings in the bottom right hand corner, but I could accept this build and the shipbuilder would be satisfied. So I'm going to place it out in space, grab it, let it snap to place, flip, B, and it thinks it's connected. It's that easy. So this ship does have a lot more opportunities for glitch building if you wanted to get into that. It can be much more complicated, which is why I try and stick with a vanilla build just to make it easy for you. But if you want to modify this from here, absolutely. Obviously, this is just meant to be your ship. Alright, the last thing we need to do is our weapons. And for our weapons, as we already mentioned, we want 6 of the Vanguard Obliterator autoprojectors. For this, to get this weapon, you need to have completed the first quest of the Vanguard quest line. So join the Vanguard and complete the Grunt Work quest, and then this weapon will be available. There are no other level requirements or anything like that. Then we want the Exterminator 95 MEVs, the auto versions, and the PBA 175 auto Helion beams. This weapon loadout probably won't allow you to board enemy ships because these weapons are so powerful and you will just destroy them before you disable them. So, fair warning. But if you wanted to play my Iconic Ship Battles mod, especially on Expert difficulty, these weapons will give you a fighting chance against those ships because they are so powerful. So, play how you want to play, use the weapons you want to use, completely up to you. Now we do get 6 of these Vanguard Obliterator autoprojectors, which is quite a lot, because they only have a max power of 2, so 6 times 2 gets us to our 12. So we're going to place all 6, primarily, especially when using auto versions of these weapons. You want to get as many as the game allows, because otherwise you're just not getting the full damage output that's possible. Because they start with a full magazine, you get that full burst damage output right off the bat, even if you only put 1 power point to them. So you may as well go with a full loadout, because you can destroy nearly all enemies in the game in just 1 magazine volley with this weapon loadout. Alright, let's assign our weapons. I think I had the Exterminators in slot 3, Vanguards in slot 2. Again, it's up to you, but just so you can see, the bottom stat line is all identical from when we started. No blues, no reds. This is the ship. So, decent amount of cargo space, 100 mobility, 28 light years of jump range, Class A top speed, and you got 39 power points, plus more if you got a good crew and skills. And that's going to do it for this build. I know it's a different build. I've never done a 2x2 or kind of a 2 wide version like this, where it's not quite symmetrical, but I did feel like this really fit the Normandy the best. And if you have a request for a ship to build, let me know in the comments. I always appreciate that. Hope you enjoy this one. Like I said, this is one of my favorites to fly right now. And until next time, keep building.